meetings may be recorded and subsequently made available to the public for listening purposes. And can we make sure that we've got mobile phones switched off or put to silent, please? Gillian, could you confirm this, Sederunt?
Thank you, Chair. We have 15 members present. We are quoted today. We have apologies from Councillor Gilroy.
Councillor Ogilvie and Councillor Driver. So McKee will be along.
Thank you, Chair. That will be noted. Thank you.
Have we got any declarations of interest? Ian?
It's advice in regards to, or maybe pick it up later, just it's the exact place where I have it in regards to item 4. I wasn't at the last meeting, maybe we could pick up with that in the appropriate time, whether this is the appropriate time or not, but just for the record, how do I stand on that with not being at the previous meeting?
Thank you, Councillor Crothers. In relation to item 4, it will only be the members who were present at the previous hearing in January that will determine the application. I will give a list of the members who were present at that meeting when we come to item 4.
Peter?
I've declared an interest in item 4, so I will leave the room.
Jim? Thanks. Can we confirm the minutes of the previous meeting? Agreed. Thanks. Gillian, could you outline the procedures to be followed?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the Planning Applications Committee will consider each application in turn as detailed on the agenda. The case officer or other appointed officer will make a short presentation addressing the determinant issues accompanied by digital images. Any late information, amendments or corrections will be reported at this time. Members may ask questions of officers following the presentation on points of clarification. The Chairman has been provided with a list of eligible representatives who have registered to speak at this meeting within the period specified in Council policy. No other persons will be allowed to speak. The Chairman will individually invite those who have registered in advance to speak to make their presentation, after which they may be questioned by committee members. No questions may be asked of members. The order of eligible parties being heard will be as follows: third parties objecting to an application, third parties supporting an application, statutory consultees objecting to an application, elected members of Dumfries and Galloway Council who are not members of the Planning Applications Committee, and then applicants or their agents. Representatives have been placed in alphabetical order, and a copy of the public speaking list is available from the committee officer taking notes of our proceedings today. Presentations will be strictly limited to 3 minutes per person, except for national and major developments, which by their very nature are more complex, where the time limit will be 5 minutes. The Chairman of the committee will ask you to come to a conclusion if you take too long. Representatives are encouraged to use the time allocated to clarify any points they consider material and address the determining issues. Certain matters are not normally material planning considerations and will not be taken into account by the Council when deciding on a planning application. Representatives should not raise any new matters without explaining why they were not raised earlier with the case officer. Please do not repeat what is in the report, as members will have already read the report. After all the representations have been heard, the meeting is then in formal session and no members of the public may address the committee from the public gallery. The Planning Applications Committee will then proceed to determine the application. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gillian. We've got item 4. It's a continuation of the erection of 4 poultry breeding units, storage building, biomass boiler building, incinerator building, temporary siting of manager's mobile accommodation unit, installation of a septic tank in Soakway, and formation of surface water detention on pond and access road and car parking at land to the northwest of Blackrig Farm, Lochmaben. Gillian.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just in relation to this item, it will only be members who heard the original representation for this who will be allowed to determine the application. Members who heard the original representation but did not attend the site visit will also be allowed to determine the application. The members who are allowed to determine this are Councillor Martin, Councillor Dempster, Councillor Blake, Councillor Dick, Councillor Dryborough, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Geddes, Councillor Groom, Councillor Hislop, Councillor McGregor, Councillor Maitland, Councillor McCautry, Councillor McKee, Councillor Thompson and Councillor Witt. Thank you.
Gillian, could I just get Dean to just go run through the items that was there just for members, update members, keep them up to date.
Okay, is it just to run through the images again of the
Just to
site?
run.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Since the last meeting, what we've done, we've popped in another location plan at a larger scale to show the position of the site relative to a wider area. So that's the application site there, greyed out. The actual buildings, as you'll see, will take up an element of that, but not the whole grey site area. Lochmaben, you can see there, sort of top right corner. That's about 1.1 kilometres from the site. Got the main A road just in red, immediately above the grade site. And there's, if you like, a zoom in, showing the site in the more immediate context with the, as you can see, the main A road there again, just to the above the site. They're the elevations of the building and also the site layout. 4 times 96 metre long buildings arranged parallel to each other with one single link building across the frontage. 5.2 metres high, as I said, 96 metres long, 16.5 metres wide each, and obviously linked to form one continuous building. If you look at the layout plan in dark below the elevations, you can see the layout there on the site, the arrangement of the buildings, also the other ancillary elements such as the suds pond in the top right above the layout, and other supporting buildings, and the biomass plant and the position of the proposed caravan. That's the landscape proposals in context, showing the bunding to the site that will be created from the excavated materials that will be, the building will be excavated down so it sits in a lower position on the site than the current levels. If you look at the top 2 images, you've got sections there through the buildings, and there's a line through, if you can look at the top, that's the current level of the land, as you'll find it on the site at the moment. It'll be excavated down, and the buildings will be lowered in the site. And if you look at the layout plan, it shows bunding to the right-hand side, which is the elevation to the minor public road, and that will be landscaped. That's just a detail of the geometry of the improved access through the existing field gate. That's an example of an accommodation unit that's part of the proposal for the manager's office and accommodation. And that's an aerial photograph of the site showing the proposed buildings in the context of the site and the wider area. Now, if we could take some images as presented by the applicant. This is an image of the site as it presently stands along the minor road, looking towards the site through the trees there. And that's an image with the proposed buildings photo montaged onto the site. You can just make out the grey areas there. This is an image of the site from the south within the same field system. If you're looking across the site, sort of below, behind the trees. And then if you're panning left from the previous, again, we're now looking across the site where the buildings would be, and the dwelling noted there, Burn Brae, is around 136 metres from the nearest part of the proposed buildings. That's panning left again towards the minor road and the hedgerow boundary to it. And that's moving to that boundary, and that existing field gate would be where the proposed new improved access would come into the site. And that's just looking across the frontage of the site to the minor road. That's an image across the site from the gate in the previous image, and panning right across the field system. And then that's an image of the minor road along the minor road from the proposed access, looking back towards the Burnbrae and the main A road. And that's going to the opposite end of that same road, looking back towards the site. And then panning left from that, just to demonstrate the existing boundary, vegetated boundary that would be retained as part of the proposal. This is an image from the main A road, looking out across the general landscape in the area of the site. And this is an image towards Lochmaben from the main A road. I've just pulled in off the A road and looking back towards the site. And highlighted in red there is an approximation of the position of the actual buildings behind the mature hedgerow there. That's an image of Burnbrae, the nearest property. And this is a view along another minor road to the south of the site. Now, these are images of an existing poultry facility operated by the applicant at Carruthers These were included and were also visited by those members that went on the site visit, just for comparison of the buildings and the operation on the site. Very similar in scale, although slightly higher than what's proposed this time, but the arrangement of 4 parallel units with a link building. This time the proposal is to finish them in various colours of green rather than the grey here. And that's an example at that site of the Suds Pond. And that's it. Thank you.
Members?
I just want to ask the planning officer about the issue of soil, because policy NE 13, although I do accept that it seems to be clearly about when planning authorities are forming the settlement, they should consider the impact on prime quality agricultural land. I do accept that we're not talking about settlement planning, but nevertheless, the idea is that in Dumfries and Galloway, where there is a scarcity of prime quality agricultural land, the policy has broadened the definition to good quality. So there is no doubt about it that we are aiming to protect our soil. The other issue is that the planning note sent by the applicant so it states that that there have been other areas, other potential constraints are applicable where there is less good quality soils. Other potential constraints in paragraph 4.18, such as the regional scenic area or areas identified at being risk of flooding. Now, this is lifted straight from the planning the applicant's agent's statement. It's not actually directly from a quote from the planner as such. And I have to say, I'm not completely clear when NE13 says that we should be considering any proposal. All proposals should be looked at for alternatives. I'm not absolutely clear that we should be accepting this, because I'm not clear that we can demonstrate that alternatives have been looked at. So I just need a little bit of help on this. I will say that I don't think there is anything wrong in any other shape or form with this development, but I want to be completely clear that we are following our own policies, because that's what the public expects.
I think paragraph 4.18 underlines the professional opinion on this, that it's acknowledged that in itself the application obviously is on good quality agricultural agricultural soils, but that the aim of the policy is to prevent non-agricultural development on such land, and that's stated in paragraph 4.18. I don't know if David wants to add.
Jane, welcome back.
I think I'll defer to the officer. I think was going to come in, but it doesn't actually completely answer my question.
David?
Well, really just to reiterate what Dean said on that this is actually an agricultural use. What we're trying, the aim of policy NE 13 is really trying to prevent the loss of prime agricultural land principally to non-agricultural use. For example, housing or industry or other things going on. This is nonetheless basically an agricultural use. If it were to be shifted further to the west, then you would be coming into the regional scenic area. We have to accept the information that has been given to us by the applicant. They have looked at other sites and found that this is the site which they have found optimal. We've no evidence to demonstrate to the contrary, and more to the point, we've got the application that's before us, and as a council, that's actually what we've to determine, not other potential options. I mean, if members were so minded that they weren't satisfied that there was justifiable grounds, then clearly that is something that you could put forward as a ground for refusal, that you do not feel it's been satisfactorily demonstrated that the development on this site is acceptable for the reasons I set out in NE 13. But from an officer perspective, our interpretation of this is an agricultural use on agricultural land. It's not, say, housing or something like that, which generally we would put through a lot more queries as to why this land was being selected rather than others.
Members?
Thank you, Chairman. Go back to the point that was made in the previous one, when it says the scale of the proposed development is similar to that of some of the nearby farms, for example, Hunter House and Burnside, when in fact you're talking about 5 times the size for this. You're talking almost 7,000 square metres of buildings. Hunter House is 1,320 square metres and Burnside 2,900 square metres. And also, to follow up from what Jane was saying there in NE 13, I believe that the owner of the farmer that owns the lands has already offered another site across from it, which probably is more suitable, less contentious, and on lower quality ground. NE 13 developments located in areas of good quality agricultural soils will only be supported where they conform to the spatial strategy of the plan and there is no alternative on less good quality land. I think there is an alternative in less quality land on this application.
Dean?
Okay. With regard to scale, the 2 elements within the report, in paragraph 1.112. Paragraph 1.112 is simply reporting a supporting document that was submitted with the application. It's not a professional view of part of the assessment by the planning service. Paragraph 2.4 is reporting on the consultation response from the council's landscape architect, where there is a reference to, well, to read it out, it says the site is shielded from Lochmaben and nearby operational farms are generally medium in scale, with several including larger scale buildings. Example, Burnside, Hunter House and Broadchapel. There's no suggestion that the comparative scale relates only to the footprint of a building. Scale relates to many factors. It's the scale of the building as a footprint, it's the height of the building, it's the mass and bulk of a building, it's the landscape it sits within, the topography, and how it's sited within the landscape. So, and then when you go to the actual report, the assessment element, there's no direct comparison made with the proposal and any other farm in specifically.
Jack, you want back in?
Thank you. Also, the report misrepresents the distance of the 3 nearest houses. It states that Bunbury is 100 metres, Bunbank 400 metres, and Blackrig 300 metres, when in fact they're 109, 220, and 123. But it also fails to include Gowan Lee to the north, which is only 137 metres. The closest houses are a lot closer to the application site than the report states.
Dean?
There's clarification of or it's made more precise in this report what the actual distance is to the nearest building. If you look at paragraph 1.3 and the supporting note, it clarifies that where we previously described the nearest property, Burnbrae, as being around 150 metres from the site, it's clarified that Burnbrae is actually 136 metres, approximately, from the buildings, not the site. We've made that clear that it's from the buildings. And furthermore, where we refer to 6 more dwellings, in the same paragraph 1.3, we say the nearest dwelling to the site, Burnbrae, is around 136 metres to the northwest, whilst a further 6 dwellings fall within approximately 400 metres of the site. That's not saying that they fall at 400 metres from the site. It's saying that the nearest property is 136 metres from the site. Thereafter, there are a further 6 dwellings that fall out within and out to 400 metres. It's not saying that they fall at 400 metres. We're just, for the purpose of the report, we're stating what the nearest property is, and thereafter any other property falls further from the site and the buildings thereon.
David?
Another thing just to mention, there were considerable exchanges between one particular objector and officers after the previous decision, which as a result of that, we've put in the paragraph that Dean just mentioned about the clarification. We've also on page 9 given you an additional plan which shows the proximity at a smaller scale, so you can in front of you actually see, notwithstanding the fact that obviously many members went on site, so you will have actually witnessed the proximity of the site and the proposed buildings to any existing one.
Alistair?
Thanks, Chair. I'm looking for some clarification and comfort in regard to a particular issue. It may be that I'm not reading it very carefully, but I'm relying on professional guidance here. I refer specifically to the Council Landscape Architect's report and the very last sentence of that at the top of page 17, whereby he refers to the retention of established trees on the northern boundary would be valuable in the screening of the development. Wood sounds aspirational, but I suppose that's the way he has to write the report. So I then refer to the recommendations and specifically paragraphs 10 and 11, and I read the condition that says that no trees identified as being retained within the application site shall be felled, topped, lopped, or uprooted, etc. Does that refer to existing trees or the ones that are planted, or both? Because I think that would be helpful if I knew that.
Dean?
It would refer to the tree. The plans are annotated to show that what existing boundary features or trees would be retained, and so it suggests on the plans that the trees along the northern boundary will be retained, and then obviously the landscaping following in and planted around the other boundaries of the site and abundant. So that condition would apply to all the trees once completed and once the landscape scheme is implemented, should be retained.
Jim?
Thanks, Chair. I'm intrigued by David's description of the site or definition of the site as agricultural and no maybe commercial, because we're being persuaded in other times that a range of buildings like that would constitute a brownfield site, whereas we're describing it here as agricultural. And I wonder how that moves from agricultural to brownfield or vice versa.
David?
Well, a brownfield site is a site that has been previously developed for another use. This obviously is, I mean, you could call it various descriptions if you want, intensive agriculture or intensive poultry rearing, whatever you want to call it. But in pure planning terms, I'm struggling to see what other use class it would fall under other than being regarded as agriculture, because you are taking in, it meets the definition in the Planning Act under section 272, if I remember rightly, of what constitutes agriculture. So in planning terms, there might be layman's terms to describe it otherwise, but in planning terms, we would have to look at this as agriculture.
Back, Jim?
Oh, just so does that mean every poultry unit in the country should be described as agricultural and go back to agricultural use in the event it being no longer used for the purpose intended?
Well, this is probably alluding to the one that was at the last meeting. We actually realised we'd kind of missed a trick after the meeting, because yes, the poultry units that we're referring to at the Stranraer site, they're agriculture as well. So the report is perhaps misleading in that one, that it says go back to agriculture. That they are agricultural at the moment. Yes.
Thank you.
Gail?
Thank you, Chair. I think most of the points have been covered, certainly by Councillor Groom. I don't think it's particularly helpful comparing the site to existing steadings that have been there for generations. The very traditional steadings, they've expanded as and when business and agriculture required that. What we're talking about is setting a precedent in a very picturesque area of putting in a very commercial-looking building that is not tied to any house or existing farm. And that's the one thing that I have an issue with it. It's almost setting a precedent, and I just want your opinion on that.
Gail, any other members? Make a decision then? Anyone? I think we go with the members' recommendations, the officers' recommendations. Jane?
Well, no, I think, I don't know where you've got to, but I would like to propose that we don't agree with this proposal. And it is on the basis that the applicant has not satisfactorily demonstrated that alternatives have been explored and discounted in accordance with policy NE13.
Jack?
I'm quite happy to second that.
Alistair?
I'm happy to second the officer's recommendation.
Put the vote, Joanne.
Thank you, Chair. We have a motion by Councillor Maitland, seconded by Councillor Groom, to refuse the application in light on the following grounds: that there has not been satisfactorily demonstrated that alternatives in relation to policy NE13. And we have an amendment by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Witts, to agree the recommendation detailed in the report. Councillor Martin?
Amendment.
Councillor Dempster?
Amendment.
Councillor Blake?
Motion.
Councillor Ferguson?
Amendment.
Councillor Geddes?
Amendment.
Councillor Groom?
Motion.
Councillor Hislop?
Amendment.
Councillor McGregor?
Motion.
Councillor Maitland?
Motion.
Councillor McCautry? Councillor Thompson?
Amendment.
And Councillor Witts.
Amendment.
With 4 votes with the motion and 8 the amendment has been decided that the application will be accepted as detailed in the officer's report. Thank you.
Thanks, Gillian. We got item 5 on the agenda, the erection of a wind turbine, maximum height to blade tip 46.2 metres, and associated control cabinet at Mid Bishopton Farm, Whithorn, reference number 14-P/1/1/2 stroke 000020.
Thank you, Chair. Just to make members aware, I think Mr. Cttee wishes to raise a point that's been addressed by the applicant today.
Thank you, Chair. It's really just to say that the applicant's agent for this application submitted a request to the team leader requesting that the application be deferred on the grounds that they were unable to attend this meeting. Once it's on a committee agenda, then it has to be a committee decision as to whether or not you're going to agree to such a request. But obviously, I'd refer you to page 3 of your agenda, which on the red pages where it says where you have a request for continuation, then the circumstances where the request is made for the inability of an applicant, objector, agent, or other party to attend a particular meeting, it's not essential for them to be there for the committee's consideration, and it can cause serious inconvenience to other parties who have taken the trouble to attend. So the advice clearly would not be to accept, but it's a committee decision.
Members accept that advice? Right. Nobody for the applicant, no objectors or any session members. Oh, sorry. Aye, Billy.
Yes, thank you, Chair. As you say, this is an application for a single wind turbine, 46.2 metres to blade tip. Before I go through the slides, there's one minor omission to correct in the report. It's actually in Appendix 1 to the report, the list of representatives. For a technical reason, one representative's name was omitted from that list. That was Mr. Pattison of Barnes, Smiddy, Whithorn, DG8 8PL. I can confirm that his representation was on the website and was considered, and he was given due notice of the committee meeting. So just to take you through the slides. So this is the site overview showing the proposed turbine location. It's just to the north of Whithorn, or slightly to the northwest of Whithorn, approximately 500 metres from Whithorn, from the edge of Whithorn. That's an aerial view, an equivalent aerial view showing the proposed turbine location relative to Whithorn and the main road accessing Whithorn from the north, which is the A746, and the B7021 running east-west to the south of the application site. The following series of slides is simply a 360 view, a 360-degree view, whereby I'm standing on the actual proposed turbine location, and I'm taking a view to give an impression of the landscape surrounding. So that's a view from the site looking southwest towards Bishopton itself. That's moving around through the north, so that's west, and then north, and that's east, southeast, and this is coming around towards Whithorn, so this is south towards Whithorn, and again that's more directly towards Whithorn. So this is a view from the site, from the A746, looking to the site itself. The turbine would be almost in line with the traffic sign in that view in the field beyond the dike. As you can see, it's in quite close proximity to the A746, which is the main access to Whithorn from the north. This one on the next 2 or 3 slides are views on the A746 approaching from the north towards Whithorn, again giving an impression of the landscape and where the turbine would be. In that view, well, in this view and in each view, the turbine would be more or less central in the direction that I'm taking the image. So that's on the northern approach from the A746. This one moves in again, slightly closer again from the A746. This is a view from the A746 on the northern approach, again looking towards the turbine site. This is a view north. So now I'm in Whithorn. This is a view north from over the cemetery from the area of the parish church and the priory. There's considerable mention of these features in the report. So that's a view looking north from that location. This is at a lower level in the cemetery, again looking north. This is a view from a lane to the west of High Street. So this is on the western edge of Whithorn itself. Again, the turbine would be more or less central in that view. As noted in the report, there would be limited, if any, views from the central part of Whithorn itself, but from the outer edges and from the rear of the plots in the conservation area, there would be clear views of the site. This is an image again showing approved wind turbines within a 6-kilometre radius of the site. This is a site overview, just giving an indication of the relationship between the turbine site, the conservation area, which is the hatched red area, the scheduled ancient monument, which is the large hatched blue area on the left of that image, and the category B and C listed buildings, well, and A indeed, A being the red ones, B being the blue ones, and C being the green ones. These are the plans from the applicant. This is the block plan showing the proposed location of the turbine. These are the turbine elevations. This is the ZTV to blade tip, showing theoretical visibility at blade tip height. And this is a ZTV to the hub height. So the recommendation is to refuse for the reasons stated.
Members, points of clarification? None? None? Members are now in session. Tom? Jim?
Just one inquiry. I'm intrigued on the emphasis on the views and the fact that Billy has taken a 360-degree view from the site, which is a departure from normal procedure. And I think maybe we should be adopting that as best practice, because I think we should often get a look at what the impact would be in the reverse fashion when we're being presented with applications for wind farms. And that's not always the case. And I don't think we should just adopt different practices depending upon what we want to achieve. I think if we have a mechanism, it should be the same mechanism on every occasion. And we've never had one like that, and I think that would be a good practice, and I think it would be helpful. But I don't think it should be preserved for just one application.
Billy?
Chair, I don't disagree with what's said, but indeed it's not a complete departure from my practice, because I have done this for turbines in the past.
Obviously in my area, Billy, but there you go.
Alistair?
No, I was talking about my ward rather than you personally.
Finished?
Chair, can I remind the Vice Chair that we're not here to look at ward issues, we're here as a strategic committee.
Which is why I raised that point, Alistair. It should be done strategically and not uniquely by officers, depending on what bit of the country they represent.
The chair can.
Chair, as far as I'm concerned, I have no problems in supporting the recommendation. But I would remind the committee of the situation several years ago just outside Bar, Hill, where we had this type of situation. It was actually recommended for grant. Elected members took the view that no, we wanted to use it. But in doing that, we made it clear, abundantly clear, that if in fact the applicant were to listen to what was being said and what was in the report and go away and think again, there might be a different decision. And that was exactly ultimately what happened at Barthwani. In fact, at the end of the day, Chair, it was dealt with and granted under delegated powers. And I find it surprising that this applicant, having read the report, cannot see just exactly issues. And I would have to say that I'm somewhat disappointed that it's been persisted, or the application has been persisted with. I would hope that refusal today, as I'm sure it will be, would perhaps give cause for reflection and possibly, and it's up to the applicant, it's not for me to say, possibly maybe another think or another take. Leave it at that. But let me repeat, totally supportive of the terms of the recommendation.
Member, going with recommendations? Gillian?
Thank you, Chair. Just to confirm that the application has been refused as detailed in the report. Thank you.
Go to item 6 on the agenda, Smiddy Cottage, Parton. Applications for erection of a detached domestic garage stroke store 14/B/2/0478. And speaking for this one's Jessica Taylor. Jessica.
Thank you. Take you through the slides. So the application is for erection of a detached replacement garage and store. The property is an end terrace of a row of category B listed properties. The site is outlined in black. The plan to the right, which has got the red on, shows the existing garage, which is hatched, and then the red line, not round the site, just round, smaller round the hatch site, shows the footprint of the proposed garage door. And on the top of the slide is the elevations of the existing garage. This slide shows the proposed elevations. It will be constructed of horizontal timber boarding and rough cast painted grey. The existing garage has a footprint of 22 metres squared, and the proposed garage door would have a footprint of 28, slightly larger. The existing garage has a maximum height of 4.1 metres, and the proposed garage would be approximately 4. When you see the photograph, this is taken from the road. It shows the gable end of the row of terraces and then the existing garage. Again, it's a closer version of the existing garage. And this is taken showing the rear of the property, the existing garage, and then other outbuildings. And the red roof building is the bleachers. Again, this is taken from the rear garden. It's showing the rear of the property. And this is taken back down the road. The application is recommended for approval subject to conditions in the report.
Member, points of clarification. Jane.
I noticed that the senior planner built heritage policy talked about the windows and the elevations being it being important that materials should be replicated and the vertical and horizontal boarding. Now, has that been complied with, particularly with the window issue? Because I think that's an inappropriate window garage, I must admit, and the old one doesn't look like that. So has this been complied with, this guidance here? Because I would suggest it hasn't.
Yes, the original plans that came in were top opening windows, and the conservation planning policy suggested side opening, which is what they meant to plan. In terms of the boarding, there is difference between the horizontal and the vertical boarding between the large door and the cladding on the building.
Jane.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't know what other members think, but I think that this is the bit that's visible from other people's gardens, and I think we should be careful about it. The windows, I think, should be much more traditional, much more. I accept that they're excessive, but I think that looks like a bungalow.
One objector speaking here, Andrew Cruikshank. Andrew, you've got 3 minutes, and I'll remind you 30 seconds to go.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Andrew Cruikshank. I live at number 3 Parton Village, and I'm speaking on behalf of the owners of all the other cottages in the terrace. Proposed work is described on the original application as replacement of timber garage with new concrete block garage.
and by the planning department simply as erection of detached domestic garage store. Neither description reflects the fact that the work involves the demolition of an historic smithy building. This building is not a garage. The principal concerns of the objectors, though, are about the appearance of the replacement building. We feel that this should be as identical to the existing smithy as possible, and are obviously disappointed that the points raised in our individual letters have had no effect on setting conditions to the recommended approval. We are even more disappointed and very surprised that all the recommendations made by the senior planner built heritage policy in her thorough and detailed report appear to have been ignored and have certainly not produced a single corresponding condition. The existence of the smithy building is surely a very important factor in this application, for without it, I question whether the erection of a large new concrete block garage so close to a terrace of B-listed cottages would be approved. Thus, to be in keeping, the building that is to replace the smithy should have the same footprint and the same roof line, timber cladding to all elevations, a grey corrugated iron or slate roof, windows of a design specified by the senior planner built heritage policy. Also, the part of the dry stone wall that has already been demolished should be properly reinstated after work has been completed. We feel strongly that approval for this planning application should be given only if it is subject to strict conditions regarding...
30 seconds to go, Andrew.
Sorry. We feel strongly that approval of this planning application should be given only if it is subject to strict conditions regarding its appearance in order to preserve the visual amenity and harmony of this terrace of B-list.
Thank you. Could you remain seated, Andrew, in case the members have got any questions? Members? But the applicant here, Robert Harris. Robert, you've got the same 3 minutes, and I'll let you know 30 seconds to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, the proposed application which has been submitted and provisionally to the planning department, with regards to the windows, a simple crossbar would give the effect of looking like a fashion case window. I concede that. With regards to the timber cladding, my whole intention was to design it so that from the road, pedestrians would see it as it was. The footprint has only been enlarged in minimis. And with regards to the block work, which is to be cement rough casted and it can be painted to a colour which suits, the whole reason for building it in block was to reduce the risk of fire. The building itself is only within a metre of the row of cottages. The building as it stands at the minute is in a severe state of disrepair. It's been heavily creosoted, and I suspect the creosote that was used in the timber preservation probably had old engine oil on it. It's very, very black. It's a garage. There would be a car stored in it, petrol for a lawnmower, whatever. So that's the reason I wanted it built in block. I am willing to accept minor alterations, i.e. the window strap. We're using cast iron downpipes. It's in the vernacular. And to my mind, it has to be an improvement in what is there. Now, that's about all I have to say. Other than that, I recommend the plans for your consideration and approval.
Thanks, Robert. Can you remain seated? Members, any questions from members? Thanks, Robert.
Thank you very much.
Members, we're now in session. Gail?
Chair, could I just put it back to the photograph of the existing? I didn't see it not very attractive. So from this side, it's not going to encroach any further into the road. The additional space is actually going to be on the garden side, presumably.
Sure.
Not very clear on the right. But yeah, yeah, it's going to the north. It will extend further north, slightly.
Thanks, Chairman. Just taking into consideration what the objectives have said, I can understand where they're coming from because it's almost like being a creature of habit, isn't it? It's difficult to see new things, but taking on board again what the applicant said and the view that the case officer has looked upon this, I'm very much minded with the case officer. I see it as being an improvement. I'm looking at that shed there, and the tin roof looks as if it's ready to rust through. The walls are ready to fall down when you see it the way the garage doors are. Historic value, I don't think to any great degree, and I think it'd be an improvement with it. I can understand why it's been constructed in block for the sake of the fire hazard and the type of materials and engine components, or flammable fluids and that are contained within that garage. So I would say, I would certainly move the recommendations as provided within the report, Chairman.
Jane, try again.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I hope that the committee might take into account the applicant's mention of a horizontal bar across the window, because I do think that would probably improve it. I wonder if I could just ask, I'm very sorry, I should have looked at this, but I can't find it clearly in this, about the colour that it's to be painted. I mean, I know about the windows and the doors, but the recommendation. Yes, it's the actual walls. I mean, if you were to paint that sparkly white, it would be horrific. I mean, quite wrong. So I just want to be absolutely clear. I mean, we are talking, I don't know if members actually understand, this is a planned village, and it's a really important set of buildings in the Stewardship. It's it's a planned village, and it is important what it looks like, with its privy in the middle. Members probably don't know that.
Quite a bit of that is in recommendation number 2, Jane. As I say, it'll be delegated to officers, I think, that come back with colours, etc. Is that right, Jessica?
The condition really relates to the windows. The blockwork is meant to be painted grey.
Just a second, Councillor Crowther's motion to grant. That's the basic detail in the report.
Members agreed? Right, thanks. I've got one bit of further business here regarding the...
But are we clear about the windows? We've accepted that, Chairman. Have we accepted that the applicant has made...
We delegate to officers. Jane.
Right.
And just to confirm that application has been approved as detailed in the report. Thank you.
There's one other bit of business concerning the site visit on Friday.
Yes, it's really just to highlight to members an apology on our part. It was somewhat unfortunate that apparently there's another event on Friday in Newton Stewart, which is a civic event and had not been entered into the council diary. So we were offered Friday as the first possible visit date, and obviously therefore took it. It should have been a free day in the member's diary, but I'm aware of the fact that a number of members now have got a potential conflict that certainly wasn't highlighted by the diary. There have been enough acceptances, I think, to still proceed with that. The other issue is the fact I'm aware of the fact that the ad hoc subcommittee has got a report to full council tomorrow, which is looking at the issue about you having to attend any site visits to be able to consider a matter when it comes back to the Planning Applications Committee. Obviously, that's a matter for full council. It was something that came from the ad hoc subcommittee. It wasn't something that officers were putting forward. You'll be aware that the advice has been consistently given by all the governance officers that have been at the Planning Applications Committee in the last 4 years, that provided you heard the representations at the initial meeting, you didn't have to attend a site visit thereafter. I understand why they would want to tie it in with the local review body. The local review body requirement under the Scottish Government's guidance do require that it's a panel, and when the panel is constituted, they must follow it all the way through. If you miss any stage, you have to pull out. That's not been the practice of the Planning Applications Committee. Obviously, I'm in the hands of the full council tomorrow as to whether or not that is agreed, but I would hope that it would certainly be made clear tomorrow that it shouldn't be retrospective, because members might have voted differently last month as to whether or not to go for a visit if they knew in advance that their attendance was going to be necessary. So it's really just to hopefully answer any queries that members might have on that.
Ian.
Thanks, Chairman. We've certainly discussed that at a group meeting, that particular subject, and we'll move to remove that. And I made that point very clear at the ad hoc subcommittee as well. We'll have to decide, full council, like David's saying, I'll have to decide whether that's the case or not, but I think it's a fair point in regards to the retrospective part of it in regards to this one. Employment Appeals was on Friday, it's been cancelled. I'm flexible in regards to moving it to a morning at a personal point of view, and I was going to attend for I haven't accepted.
As I say, it's a civic event, it's on at the same time, Ian, that was the thing, and it wasn't put into the diary, it wasn't the employment appeals one, it was a civic event, it's on at the same time. But as I say, the rest of it will be a decision at the full council tomorrow for members of that committee. Alistair.
Thanks, Chair. For obvious reasons, I'm not going to rehearse the discussion which might take place, which will undoubtedly take place at full council tomorrow. For a start, Chair, you wouldn't have let me. But I am one of those directly affected by the civic event in Newton Stewart at 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon. It's unfortunate, but I'll be going to the site visit. Simple as that. As I say, at the end of the day, we're going to have to take more care, particularly if the decision tomorrow, and I stress if the decision tomorrow goes in a particular fashion, we'll have to take more care in the future to make sure, in fact, these site visits are scheduled in such a way that they don't clash with them. Leave it at that.
I think we've already brought that forward to officers. As I say, it was unfortunate. The civic event didn't go into the calendar. Jim.
Thanks, Chair. I'm another member affected with this clash of engagement, and to my mind, it simply illustrates the importance of entering all engagements in the central diary. That had that been done, this clash would not have occurred.
Ian.
Could I just ask one question about the site visit on Friday? I noticed in the guidance notes it mentioned about suitable heavy footwear, etc. Is that a specific requirement? I would have a walking difficulty, which maybe will feature tomorrow as well when it comes to that decision. But it's pointless me driving all the way to Stranraer to find that it's unsuitable for me to be an entity.
David.
Well, certainly I double-checked the photos that we showed last month, and it shows quite a considerable concrete hard standing within the site. And we've written to the applicant and asked them to allow access into the site so people should be able to drive in, and we won't have a reoccurrence of what happened at the site visit for the Lochmaben one, where you should all be able to get off the road. Certainly, it is advice that you have something like, I would suggest that if you've got stout footwear, welly boots or something, it might be appropriate. But having looked at the photos, it's not something where it's going to be unsuitable ground for yourself to walk over. It's quite flat and it doesn't appear to be too boggy. Hopefully not at this time of year.
Andy?
Thanks. This is a wee bit disconcerting for me, given my past. There should surely be an appropriate risk assessment for every site visit completed before it's actually programmed in, and this is a perfect example. Ian's points are extremely well made, and under the Quality Act of 2010, we're probably discriminating against him if he doesn't get to go on a site visit.
Alistair.
Thanks, John. I'm glad this has been brought to the fore, and I'm also glad that it appears that it won't be retrospective, although I wouldn't like to preempt what's going to be said tomorrow. In the past, it was suggested that could never understand why the local review body, had to have a site visit and the planning didn't. I was told it had to be more rigorous once. That suggests that we're given decisions at planning applications committee in a cavalier fashion, which I'm sure is not. But it's a clear inconsistency that needs to be sorted.
Sorry, Alistair, local review body doesn't need to have a site visit.
Sorry, we should maybe just clarify that. It is in the guidance for local review body, not for planning committees, but the Scottish Government's guidance for local review body procedures is that when you have a panel, if you've decided to go for what are called further procedures, such as a site visit or hearings or written representations, the same panel that attended the first meeting must follow all the way through. Anybody that follows out can't be substituted, and it's a panel rather than a committee. So there's a different operation. They aren't exactly the same, but certainly the practice of this committee over the last 4 years of its being has always been that to take part in the vote, you must have heard the representations, but there's never been a requirement that you must, where there's a site visit, attend the site visit to be able to take part in any vote. So there is a difference there.
Jim?
It might be useful if David were to speak to governance or whoever before tomorrow to ensure that we don't actually compromise the ability of a member to sit in this forum simply because we conduct the site visit and he's not able to attend for obvious reasons. I don't think a risk assessment is appropriate in every circumstance, but I think we need to ensure that members are not compromised. I think personal judgment will decide whether or not a person feels that he or she should be able to view what is basically an open site.
Members remember there's a planning meeting.
Well, absolutely, Chair, and my comment was made in good faith, and I think the Fire Brigade Union and Unite have got different views on that, because we would say that should certainly be a visit, and there should be a risk assessment done for every activity this council carries out, be that members or members of staff.
Gail, let you in final.
Oh, it'll be a good final word. I think we are fairly cautious as a council. We had a tour of DG1 the other day and I was not allowed in the swimming pool because I had heels on. So I think that generally we're quite good at saying, no, don't do that. So I will always attend in heels.
Thanks for that. Is that no further business? Thank you for your attendance.